Welcome back to DSR. Today is January 24th. The UA feedback survey is live now for the Mystic subclasses UA. And you can see I've got up on the screen here. It closes on February 5th, and it's the morning of February 5th, morning Pacific time. So I don't know where you are in the world, but don't think until you have the end of day on February 5th. It's the morning. I made that mistake once and didn't get my feedback in. And if you're wondering how to get to this, it's just right up here in the library. You go to Unearthed Arcana and brings you to this page. You can see every Arcana that they've published since the beginning of their playtest for the 2024 rules. And this is the latest one. This is the only one with the feedback still open. So let's get our feedback in. Now, I am doing version 2 now of the Spellguard Paladin, and I am trying to work through different ideas and different things to improve these with the hope that people who watch this it will contribute and we can align and compromise and align on something that we think will be overall better than what they presented the first time in this UA. So we can all then put this in our feedback survey and amplify our voice, right? If we all say different things, then it's just noise. If we all say the same thing, or hundreds or thousands of us say the same thing, then they're more likely to hear and take into account what we say. All right, so let's get into the details of the revision number 2 for the Spellguard Paladin. The problems to solve that I wanted to try to solve with this version was reduce the reaction contention. There's a lot of reaction contention on even on the last version. I wanted to make all of the features more useful in more situations, not just against enemy spellcasters, and improve the scaling of Guardian Bond. I have seen this in playtest now. I DM'd, I had a player who was playing the Spellguard, and it performed really well, but I intentionally put spellcasters into every combat encounter that they could possibly run into. There was at least one spellcaster, if not many spellcasters. And so in that scenario, this performed really well. But if I think back through all of the events of that playtest, if there had been no spellcasting from enemies, this subclass would have done nothing, right? I mean, the character would have still done things, but this subclass would have added nothing to that whole battle. Maybe the concentration from the aura would have been the only thing they added, and only because this was built, the whole encounter or the whole one shot was a level 20 one shot. So the players planned their characters together, and since they knew that somebody was taking Spellguard, they intentionally, none of them took Warcaster. So they all benefited from it, but only because they planned it that way right at level 20. And that's kind of the awkwardness of this aura of concentration. So I wanted to solve that. And so I also wanted to create features, or at least alternate features for everything, or alternative uses for everything, so that if there was no enemy spellcasters, this could still do something. All right. So let me show you the details. On the screen, you're seeing version 1 of the Spellguard and version 2. I can't get fully all of version 1 on the screen at the same time, but that's okay. I'm not going to really reference it. But know that this is all in there in that one Google Sheet that's in the Google Drive, linked on every one of my videos. So you can look at this offline and download it and do whatever you want with it, or follow along with the videos. Okay, so and this kind of looks like there is more here. There are more features, and I did add technically a feature, but that was really more for, actually, I consolidated it. Okay, I consolidated it so it has the same number of features, but it looks like there's more stuff going on. And really, it's that alternative uses for everything, so that it's the what if there was no enemy spellcasters, what would this feature do? All right, so starting off, let's go Guardian Bond. All right, so this is as a bonus action you cast Guardian, you can expend one use of your Channel Divinity to cast Heroism on an ally, not yourself, without expending a spell slot and without concentration, and lasting 1 hour. So it lasts longer, no concentration, no spell slot. The target of your Guardian Bond benefits from your aura of protection while within 20 feet of you, so double the range, 60 feet if you're at Paladin level 18. Again, double the range when the Paladin aura range increases. The spell ends early if you use this feature again. So even though you can cast Heroism on somebody else, because this one doesn't use concentration, you can only do the Guardian Bond version of this on one target at a time. And frankly, I was especially proud of that part where it finally occurred to me. I was like racking my brain over how to make Guardian Bond more useful without making it overpowered, and the stacking of getting the bonus to your saving throws from the base aura Paladin aura of protection plus anything else Guardian Bond gave you. And it just occurred to me, you know what? A lot of the time, if you're wanting to, protect a spellcasting ally, they don't want to be close to you, right? So let's just extend the aura of protection specifically only for them, right? So they get that additional range, which is going to make it a lot easier for that spellcasting buddy to benefit from your aura of protection, because being within 20 feet is not too bad for them. Now that's a little bit uncomfortable. So once you get to level 18 and it increases to 60 feet, all of a sudden it's like, wow, it doesn't matter. They can be anywhere on the battlefield and they still benefit from your aura. So I like that one. Uh, Also at level 3, I'm going to modify Spellguard spells. I'm probably going to get flamed for this. I know. Okay. Remove the shield spell. Yes, I know. I know. It's super awesome spell. It is so good, but it is a reaction, and it frankly conflicted with all the other reactions going on here. And conflicted in the sense that the shield spell is always a really, really good reaction to save yourself. But all the other reactions going on with the spell guard were reactions to help your ally or punish a spellcasting enemy. And there was just too much incentive to use the shield spell on yourself and not then keep your reaction for anything else. So there's a conflict there. Also, I just think shield spell is far too powerful to put on a paladin subclass. Like that combination of paladin with their high armor class and all their other defenses, plus the shield spell, too much. Yes, they can still get through magic initiative, but at least it costs them an origin feat. Okay, so we're going to remove the shield spell and add compelled duel and heroism. So they're coming out ahead. They're getting one extra spell. Yes, those are two spells that people think are crappy. And compelled duel is crappy. And heroism is okay. I think it's a lot better than people think, because heroism, yes, does suppress the frightened effect while it's the heroism spell is on them. It doesn't end the frightened effect, but it does suppress it. There's a sage advice on that. But we're going to improve compelled duel, so don't judge too quickly on compelled duel. And also at level 13, we're going to modify Spellguard spells to remove Odaluk's Resilient Sphere and add Elemental Bane. Yes, holy crap, once again, Bruce, what are you doing? That's a terrible spell. Yes, it is. I like taking spells that are not good, putting them onto a subclass and enhancing them so that they are good and work with that subclass. So hold your judgment on Elemental Bane. We're going to get back to it at level 15 with improved Spellguard, okay? So yes, there will be that levels 13 and 14 where you've got Elemental Bane on your spell list and it's not very good. But frankly, there's always some spells on your spell list that at some point or other, if not always, are not good. That's super common on these spell lists. All right, let's keep moving. So also level 3, Spellguard Strike. So I did say this is a replace because I modified it so heavily. It just made more sense to say this is a total replace, even though there's a lot of similarity here. Okay, so this one is when you perceive a spell cast within 30 feet, you can use your reaction to teleport to an unoccupied space, misspelling there, within 5 feet of the caster. I'll fix it after the video. You can immediately make one attack with a weapon or unarmed strike against a creature within reach or range with advantage. All right, so note that this does not have to be an enemy spellcaster, and you do not have to attack the caster that triggered this. So you can have an ally cast a spell, and then you use your reaction to teleport next to that ally and make an attack. And yes, it can be a ranged attack with a ranged weapon if you have it, or it can be a weapon attack with whatever melee weapon you have, depending on however you're built your paladin. Right? If you build a ranged paladin, then it gives you just a free reaction attack with your whatever your ranged attack is. If you're a sword and board, then you get a 5-foot reach, and you have a 5-foot reach, then you're going to make a reaction attack within 5 feet. If you've got a pole arm, then you're going to make a reaction attack within 10 feet. So you get that attack, and you make it with advantage. My previous version said, you ignore spell defenses and things like that. That was a little too awkward to define, and so I just said, let's just make it advantage, right? That's nice and clean. It's easy to use. It doesn't stack with other forms of advantage. It cancels out disadvantage if they have blur on you. I think it kind of does everything we want, and is nice and easy to use. Additionally, if this attack hits, you can choose to expend your use of Channel Divinity, to cast Compelled Duel on the target without expending a spell slot and without concentration. That kind of fixes two of the biggest problems with Compelled Duel. Additionally, if the target is affected by this casting of your Compelled Duel, targets of its spells, the person you have Compelled Duel on, have advantage on saves against spells that creature casts, right? So you're not just taunting them with their attack rolls, you're also taunting their spells. So if they try to target anyone but you with their spells, then those people have advantage on the saving throws. I thought that was kind of a cool thing to add to Compelled Duel, giving it, this very much like you're going to go not just tank a big threatening boss that has big damaging attacks. If they are a big spellcaster, you can Compelled Duel and taunt them on their spells too. And yes, that's two different options now for your channel divinity, but one is only helping an ally, and the other one only applies if there's an enemy spellcaster. So yes, you have two options. That second option may not come up very often, which is kind of one of the big problems we're trying to solve here. Moving on to level 7, Aura of Disruption. Had some great, and a lot of this came with like idea, at the very least, ideas sparked by discussion from the community, if not directly contributed by somebody from the community. So somebody in the community said, what if it just locked down their teleporting? Love it. Now there are teleporting creatures. They're not super rare, but they're not common either. So I thought let's broaden that because there's also a number of creatures that can just turn invisible, and so I included that. So creatures of your choice within your aura, and I just didn't want to write out the whole aura of protection, that attempt to teleport or turn invisible, and in parentheses other than the hide action. So you can gain the invisible condition from the hide action, and I didn't want to. I don't think it made sense for the aura of disruption to stop that. So if they hide, they can still become invisible. But if they try to use anything else to become invisible, then that's kind of magical, and this aura will stop that. Must succeed on a con save, just shortening the text, Constitution save versus your spell save DC, or they are unable to teleport or turn invisible, and the action they use to do that is wasted. Okay, so we're going to lock down teleportation and turning invisible within our aura area. And that felt pretty cool. It still felt a little too circumstantial. So I took some other ideas from other commenters online in the community, kind of munched some things together, and added the second effect to your aura of disruption. As a bonus action, you can expend a use of your channel divinity to force creatures of your choice within your aura that are concentrating on a spell to make a con save versus con save to maintain concentration versus your spell save DC. So that's to kind of disrupt spellcasters. So if they've cast a spell, you weren't able to stop it, and now they're maintaining their concentration on it. On your turn, you can attempt to suppress all of that and cause them to fail their concentration. It's kind of like an AoE counter spell, but it's a bonus action, takes no spell slot, it doesn't take your reaction, and it does expend another use of your channel divinity. So we now have a third use of your channel divinity. Again, only two of them are only options if there's an enemy spellcaster. Okay. So we only have one that we're even going to use if there are no enemy spellcasters. All right, moving on to level 15, Improved Spellguard. And I changed the name of that because Spellbreaking Blade, I just couldn't figure out how to make these mechanics that I wanted to put in here work with the name Spellbreaker, even though I think the name Spellbreaker is super cool. So first effect we get is immediately after you hit a creature with your Spellguard Strike, you can cast Counterspell, Dispel Magic, or Elemental Bane. Not all three, just one of those you choose. And note that the target of that spell that you cast these spells on does not have to be the person you hit with your Spellguard Strike. So you can Spellguard Strike one creature and then cast Dispel Magic on someone else, like help an ally, or Dispel Magic from an enemy who's got a buff on them, or you can Counterspell an enemy who is casting a spell, or you can cast Elemental Bane. Counterspell would be on the enemy who might be one who is the one you just hit because they are the one who triggered your Spellguard teleport and they're casting a spell. So part of all this is you hit them. That may cause them to lose concentration if they're maintaining concentration spell. And then you cast Counterspell to block their spell, right? Okay, now if none of those apply because you don't have spellcasting enemies in the party, right? Your party may have buffs on them, but that would be because your allies cast support ally cast a buff on them. So there's no magic you want to dispel from your allies, right? If the enemies are not casting spells. So then we have the Elemental Bane option, which is we're going to essentially weaken the target's defenses against an energy damage type so that our allies' spells are more effective against them. That's kind of the idea here. So we're going to cast Elemental Bane on the target, and again, it can be any target. It does not have to be the person who triggered the teleport. And it does not have to be the one that we hit with the Spellguard Strike either. It can be, especially if that one's really low, so you Spellguard Strike this creature, kill them, and then Elemental Bane on somebody else within range. Now, Elemental Bane is a touch attack, so they have to be within range. All right. If you successfully Dispel Magic, or the target fails the save, whether it's the save against Counterspell or the save against Elemental Bane, you don't have to, deal extra radiant damage to the target equal to 1d6 per level of the spell slot you use to cast the spell. If the spell fails, and you would want to write that out different ways, right? I just wanted to keep it shorter for this. If the spell fails to do its thing, then the slot isn't expended. So if you attempt to cast Elemental Bane on somebody and they succeed on a saving throw against it, you do not lose that 4th level spell slot, which you don't have a lot of as a paladin. And the reason why the damage is optional is, what if you teleport, the thing that triggered your Spellguard strike, you kill it with a strike, and then you have an ally who has a negative, magic effect on them. Well, then you can dispel magic on them, and you don't want to automatically cause damage to an ally. So you have all these options for, I'm going to help an ally or hurt these enemies. And so now you have, all right, so there's that. A bit of like a spell smite, right? You're casting one of these spells, it smites them for a number of d6s of radiant damage. Maybe it should be force. I kind of went back and forth on that. And maybe it should be force damage on the improved Spellguard damage. Then the second feature that improved Spellguard gives us is, if the target of your Guardian Bond is within range to benefit from your Aura of Protection, which means it's the enhanced range because they're the target of your Guardian Bond, so 20 feet or 60 feet if you're level 18. If they fail a con save to maintain concentration, so they're maintaining concentration on a spell and they've failed the save, okay? You can expend a use of your Channel Divinity to use your reaction to teleport to an unoccupied space adjacent to them, to your ally who failed the save, and cause them to succeed on that save instead. And so now you have this Spellguard who's like teleporting all over the place and locking down teleportation of the enemies. You're teleporting to allies to help them when needed, and you're teleporting to enemies to punish them for casting spells or hurting your allies. So you've got all these different options. So now we have 4 options for Channel Divinity. 2 of them are to help allies, and in situations where there are no enemy spellcasters, and 2 of them only apply to help, punish enemy spellcasters. And then with all those changes, nothing needed to change for your Eternal Spellguard. So that one's just as is. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make these kind of things work, thinking through the different ways these reactions might work. Now, there's a lot of reactions, but they're mutually exclusive reactions. Like in none of these scenarios would there be a reaction where, I want to use all 4 of these different reaction choices and they all conflict. It's always in different circumstances. In this circumstance, I can use this one. In this circumstance, I can use that one. So there's still a lot of reactions, but they have mutually exclusive triggers. And again, options to help your allies, options to punish enemy spellcasters, if there are any. All right, well, that's all I got for this one. I actually got through a little faster than the monk one, although I spent a lot more time thinking about this one, and I actually feel pretty kind of excited about it. I think it'd be a lot of fun to play this, regardless of whether or not you ever encounter any enemy spellcasters, which was the point of it, right? Make this thing feel cool and special and doing different and unique things, whether or not any spellcasters ever occur. And if they do happen to occur, you're going to really punish them, which is what you'd want to see, right? Like that's the moment where this paladin is just going to shine. I was a little bit worried about their power level, which is why I added Channel Divinity uses to so many places, so they couldn't just do all of these things all the time with all these reactions and just dominate. So they have all these options, but it's still, many of them are limited by Channel Divinity, so they can't just do all of them all the time. They've got to pick and choose which things they're doing with their Channel Divinity, which is why it's in 4 places. But that's all I got. So I hope you like it. Let me know which things you think work, which things you think do not work, and let's make this something awesome that we are all excited to play when it is released. And hopefully it does get released, because I think this is a super cool fantasy. It's one I'm very excited, and I definitely want it to be released. So thanks for watching. Remember to be cool when you play D&D. Catch you next time.